Welcome back to Airgun Adventures. So, quick look at my SMK B3 or DB3 or DB4. So, picked this up pre-owned, virtually free to be honest. Now, I was looking for a B3 and it certainly looked like a B3 until I really got into the thing. There's a few things on it. I mean, the stock is a bit more shapely than most of the B3s. It's more like the DB range, which a bit later. It's got a synthetic piston seal, which again would bring it into the DB4 area. The original rear sight would have sat back here on the milled scope rails. That was missing, but that's not a problem. The front sight, which I'll look at shortly, is pure DB4. Plastic trigger, squared off trigger guard. More importantly, massively long reach to get to the trigger. That's okay, that kind of suits me, but it wouldn't suit everybody. And that is one of the things that they say about the DB4s. Too big a reach, too long a reach. So I think it's okay. It's better than I expected, having been in there and had a look. It's not too badly put together. It's pretty clean. There's some grease in there that I think has been added, because the original grease is like tar, and it's probably moly or lithium, but it's in there. It fires, it shoots straight. So as far as the barrel lottery is concerned with the Chinese rifles, I seem to be on a winning streak. It's not overly powerful. It chronoed at just shy of 9 foot-pounds. That will probably improve with a little bit of cleaning and TLC. It's very twangy, so I'm planning to take the spring back out. I'm going to make a liner for the cylinder, replace the spring after I've cleaned it and polished the ends, and I'm going to add some decent moly grease to it. I'm not going to touch the trigger. There's two reasons for that. It's a very simple trigger and there's not much I can do with it really, and the chances are if I expend any time on it I might well make it worse, and it's not bad. No, I can't say that it's a terrible trigger. There are other things about this rifle that are far worse, and other things that are really quite impressive. I mean, the anti-bear trap on these later ones is pretty good actually. The earlier ones it was very, very simple, but effective. It's not a true anti-bear trap in that there's nothing to grab the mechanism. You know, you pull it back and a bar slides forward and two springs hold it in a point where the trigger can't move, which is effective, but if it slips off the sear you've gained nothing. You need that ratchet mechanism and some kind of lock that you manually release. There's no safety on this, which is the odd thing, because I would have thought the later DB3 and DB4 would have had safeties, and certainly ones I've seen have. This one doesn't. So it could just be it's a later model built in one of the many Chinese factories that produce these things, made up of the parts they had. So it could have been some old DB3 bits and pieces, some DB4 bits and pieces. Elements of it are very B3, but then again they're all a bit like that. So good old clean. One or two slight modifications, nothing serious. I'm not looking to massively increase the power. I'd just like it to be a little bit quieter and shoot a little bit smoother, and then I'll be happy. Cosmetically, well, it's a Chinese air rifle. You know, you get good ones, you get bad ones. Now the stock finish on this is that horrible treacle brown, incredibly glossy stuff, but someone's actually refinished it and made it worse, so it's going to have to all come off. Now I know what's underneath that. It's going to be that unspecified orangey hardwood stuff. It won't be very attractive. It'll need to be covered. I'm not going to attempt to oil it or even revarnish it. I'm going to go with a paint finish, and I'm going to go with a camo. I'm going to try and go with something close to a real tree effect. I'm not looking for perfection. I just want something that looks like it's supposed to be camouflaged and hasn't been camouflaged by me. I won't go for the pattern on this hat because I'm not impressed with it, but it does match some of the other stuff that I've got, which is why I kept it. I much prefer the other one. Scope wise, that's a cheap BSA scope. I got that free with another gun. I took it off, not because it was particularly bad, just because I had better scopes that I could put on. And this has become the spare It's not a bad scope. It's a bit like the gun. It looks much better than it actually is, but it's perfectly adequate for this and for this project. I'll leave it on here and I'll get myself another spare scope and I'll go for something a bit better. On the subject of scopes, there's a scope review coming up which is on a budget scope, but it's a cracker. It really is worth having a look at, and that'll be in the next week or so. Anyway, I'm rounding again, so let's have a quick look around the gun. I'll tell you exactly what I plan to do. I'll do a quick roundup. I've fired it, I've croned it, because you need a starting point. I need to see if things are better when I finish. I hope so. It'd be terrible if they're not. And I'll round up quickly at the end. So let's have a look round. So here we go. As I mentioned, foresight there. It's quite basic and old-fashioned. There's no fibre optics, but it's well built, it's well made, it's well attached. The barrel is milled, so as it isn't going to go anywhere. That's as far as it goes on. It's pinned. The actual adjustment in the end is just a screw. I can't really get much of a focus on that, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, but that's the best we're going to get. But in there is a screw you can move up and down. Now it's about a 15mm barrel. It's quite well blued. Similar thing down here with the cocking lever. Again, it's made from folded steel, and there's no weld in that at all, but it's certainly more than adequate for the job. This sort of nylon cover is well made. It's quite tough. It clips in there nicely. This is just a spring clip that locks it back in. There's the BAM branding, best airgun manufacturing. My experience tells me if someone tells you they're the best, they're probably not, but there you go. There's the breech, milled scope rail there with the PSA scope on the top, which I won't go into in any depth because that's not important. The only plastic on this gun is this cap here and the trigger blade here. Now the stock itself, I'm sure that it will look better on camera than it does in real life. I can't say much about it really. It's a wooden stock and it's really badly finished. It does have a rubber butt pad, which is very well fitted and quite a good bit of rubber. There's a slight raised cheek piece there, but only slight, so effectively it's ambidextrous. Long angled pistol grip, a long gap between the pistol grip and the trigger itself. I don't know why it does that. Every time I try to film a rifle, the focus goes crazy. So that's it in a nutshell. There's not a great deal more to say about it, other than the fact that it looks like just about every other SMK B3, whether it's a B3F, B31, B32, B33, DB3, DB4 or DB5. The only thing that has changed over the years is the distance from there to there. They are now the same, and they're clipping, and this is a combined unit now. Other than that, nothing much is, well, very little has changed actually. I've just moved into the 21st century with a synthetic piston seal. So there's nothing much more I can tell you other than once I get to work, this won't look very much like this anymore. It should look a whole lot better. The scope, by the way, I just popped that on because I wanted to shoot it before I started, and because there's no rear sight, that scope was really the only option. So we'll do a quick roundup. I'll just quickly talk about the target results. There'll be more of that to come, obviously, once I've done some work, and that'll be it. So let's do a roundup. Okay, so quick roundup, and I'll do the target at the same time, so I've omitted that. That was the little bit of shooting that I tried. Those are really cheap pellets. They're marksman pointed, and you get tons of those for about £5. And I didn't expect very much. That's good. I tried the Asian ends, got exactly the same results, so it's not pellet fussy. There's 6 in there. That isn't bad at all. The spread's a little bit wider than I would have liked because I was only at 20 yards, but they're all roughly where I'd like them to be. One or two are bang on. I used a laser bore sighter to get this thing sort of tuned in. I didn't want to mess around too much, so it was a bit of a cheat, but actually I was really impressed with that, and I'll do a review on that at some point as well, because it's a good piece of kit. They're cheap, save you a load of time, can't rely on it completely, but it gets you really close to where you want to be. In this case it was more than adequate, combination of a Chinese rifle and probably a cheap Chinese scope. It's marked BSA, by the way, and it may well have been bundled with a BSA rifle. Again, I got it with another rifle that I acquired, and I didn't get it for the scope, I got it for the rifle. The scope was just a bonus. So yeah, it's around about, it's actually knocking the door of 10 foot-pounds, but we'll say 9 something because it was a bit sporadic. I think when it's cleaned, properly lubricated, and perhaps with a little bit of tuning, I think it'll be pretty reliable. There's no oil in this gun, it is just grease, so it may well be it's still the original grease. It didn't look thick and dirty enough for that, but it could be. It's not a bad gun. When I finish, it should be a fairly good gun. I'm not going to keep it. I'm doing this for somebody else who wanted a cheap starter air rifle that didn't cost a lot of money, but didn't look like a cheap starter air rifle, or when I finish it won't. So this barrel, this will be coated or covered with a plastic heat shrink sheath, which will be the diamond effect that I use on the silencers. I'll do the same with the cocking lever. I'm going to camo paint the stock. I've got the paint for that kicking around. Rather than do a long drawn out video, I'm going to do a video of the stock and the camo finish, a video of the heat shrink on these. When I do take the spring out again, I'll do a video on that. The reason I'm not doing that now is because the compressor, the spring compressor that I use, is incredibly Heath Robinson, incredibly dangerous. I could show you some dents in the walls from previous adventures with it. I'm going to make a new one, so I'll take it out again, I'll do it properly, I'll show you how to make the spring compressor, and it will be quite a serviceable. My old one it's nearly 15 years old. It's made out of bits and pieces I had laying around. It's really earned its keep. It's time for an upgrade. I would buy one, but I don't do enough of this kind of thing to warrant the cost of one, and you can make something very serviceable for just a few quid. So there's lots of other things that are going to sort of spin off from this project. The main thing is this gun will look very different. It won't be any more accurate, it won't be particularly any more powerful. It should be quieter, it should be smoother, a bit more pleasant to shoot. The guy that's having it has got hands like shovels, so the fact that that trigger's a long way from the pistol grip isn't going to be a problem. At least I wouldn't have thought so. Anyway, that's where we are. I'll be back very soon with some more updates. I'm probably going to get on and do the stock while the weather's okay. It's not good, but it's okay. Get that stock done, then I'll get on to the workshop stuff on here. That's going to produce a couple of videos. This will just be one, probably 10-minute video, and what I'll do is I'll finish the stock, and then I'll show you on another stock or on a separate piece of timber how the effect was created. It's going to be sealed as well, which is another thing that I'll include in that video. Paint finishes, you know, it depends on the use they get and how much knocking about they get. They don't last forever, and if you're careful and you go back to the timber and prime it before you start, you should get a decent lifespan, and then you can always go and touch up. Camo is really easy to touch up. If you want to change it completely, it's just a light rub down, spray it again. So, rambling again. So that's where we are so far. Please like and subscribe. A big thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. It really is appreciated, and I'll be back again very soon with some updates. Bye for now.